Hi, my name is Lena Harrow and I'm 28 years old. This happened to me in a forest just outside a small town in Washington. It's not a ghost story, but it still haunts me every single night. I didn't get possessed. I didn't lose my mind. I just made one terrible mistake. I picked up something that didn't belong to me. If you enjoy terrifying stories based on unspoken rules of places you don't understand, please subscribe, like, and share this video. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. I've always liked wandering through antique shops and abandoned places. I know stupid horror movie behavior, but I'm not reckless. I've done it for years. Usually I find old books, broken records, rusty coins. But last November something changed. I was visiting my aunt in a sleepy town called Eastbrook. She lives near a stretch of forest known as Black Hollow, a place kids grow up being warned about. But no one tells you why. They just say, don't stay past sunset. On my third day there I went walking through it, not deep, just on the edge. It was quiet, crisp, and peaceful until I found a little doll sitting upright on a mossy rock, like it had just been set there minutes before. It was handmade, stitched eyes, yarn hair, little black dress, no mold, no rot, just clean, fresh, and tied around its waist was a faded white ribbon with words stitched in red thread. She only plays if you bring her home. I laughed, thought it was some artist's prank. I took a picture of it and slipped it into my tote bag. Biggest mistake of my life. From the moment I walked back to the trail, things fell off. The birds had gone silent. The trees didn't sway even though there was wind, and the shadows on the path behind me, they moved the wrong way. That night I didn't sleep well. I kept hearing tapping, not on windows, on walls from inside, like fingers with too many joints drumming along the drywall. I kept checking, but nothing was there until 3:12 a.m. the moment the doll appeared on my nightstand. Even though I'd left it in my bag downstairs, he froze. It was sitting up again facing me, the little ribbon gone. In its place, a new message stitched into its chest. You saw her. I ran, not just out of the room, out of the house. I didn't even put shoes on. I stood barefoot in the backyard, breathing so hard it felt like my lungs were cracking. When I went back inside, the doll was gone, but so was something else. My reflection in the hallway mirror. It didn't follow me. It stayed frozen, staring back, and it blinked. Even though I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, every time I closed my eyes, I saw the doll's stitched face, not in my room anymore, but behind every door I opened, inside every mirror I passed. I kept trying to convince myself it was just a prank, that maybe I'd brought it upstairs without remembering. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But then I checked my phone. The photo I had taken, the one of the doll sitting on the mossy rock in the forest, was gone. Not blurry, not corrupted, just gone, as if I never took it. My entire camera roll was intact except that one picture. And when I opened my tote bag, the doll was right where I had originally left it. But now its eyes were different. Before they were just stitched black buttons. Now they had tiny red beads in the center. They weren't sewn on. They were embedded like teeth, and the thread across its chest now read, She likes your voice. I threw it in the fireplace. My aunt didn't ask questions. She was the kind of woman who always acted like she knew more than she let on. I thought burning it would end everything, but fire doesn't destroy what isn't fully here. The doll burned, crackled, popped, turned black. But the next morning, when I opened the fridge for milk, it was sitting inside, clean, cold, had tilted a new thread across its legs. You broke the rule. I confronted my aunt that morning. I expected her to think I was crazy. Instead, she sighed like a mother who'd just caught her child playing with a Ouija board. You went to the hollow, didn't you? She asked. I nodded. And you took something? Again, I nodded. She looked out the window and said the words I still hear in my head every time I dream about trees. She doesn't let go of what she touches. First, she told me about the legend, how long before settlers, the hollow was considered a holding place, not a grave, not a sacred site, a place to contain something small so it wouldn't draw suspicion. A presence, the hidden objects, stills, trinkets, hand-carved toys, things easily carried. People were warned never to touch them, never to take them beyond the tree line. I had crossed that line, and now she was with me. That night I heard laughter, not loud, not childish, a low, broken kind of laugh, like a breath through cracked porcelain. I found The doll again on my pillow, but this time, it wasn't alone. Lying next to it was a photo, one I had never taken, of me asleep in bed, mouth open, eyes half open, and the doll crawling up my chest. There was no stitching on the doll that night. Just a torn seam at its side, and something dark. Something wet leaking out of it. Didn't go back to sleep after I saw that photo. I sat on the kitchen floor all night staring at the doll from across the room. I didn't touch it. Didn't go near it, but I swear to God it moved not fast, not dramatically, just subtle things. Its head ever so slightly tilted more than before, its arms bending in a way I knew wasn't stitched. That way I waited until sunrise, then wrapped it in an old pillowcase and drove back to Black Hollow. My aunt begged me not to go. She said the forest knows the moment you leave the road, and I think she was right, because just a mile before the tree line my car stalled. Nothing wrong with the gas. No warning lights, it just stopped like it knew I was trying to return something that didn't want to be returned. Walked the rest of the way. As soon as I passed the tree line, everything changed. The air dropped 10 degrees, the sunlight dimmed, even though there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and there were no birds, no bugs, no sound at all except for a faint wooden clicking like toy joints snapping in rhythm. I followed the trail looking for the mossy rock, but it wasn't there anymore. Instead, there was a circle of mushrooms, small, black, dead looking, and in the center a doll identical to mine, but rotting, unstitched, eyes open, mouth bent, legs round. It were more, dozens of them in different stages of decay. Some with threads cut, others burned, one with a shattered ceramic face, all of them abandoned, all of them returned, and yet all of them still her. At the moment I stepped into the circle, my ears rang, and then I heard her, not through the trees, not in the wind, inside my chest, like her voice was sewn into my rib cage. You left her cold. My hands went numb. The pillowcase began to squirm in my grip. Something inside it was moving. I dropped it and ran, but the forest didn't let me out. The path twisted, doubled back, the trees changed places when I blinked. And the dolls, I saw them nailed to trunks, now hanging from branches, sitting in the dirt, their stitched heads turning as I passed. They were all watching, all waiting. She finally collapsed from exhaustion. When I opened my eyes, I was back at the edge of the forest. My car was there, but so was the doll sitting on the hood. Same face, same red beads in the eyes, new message stitched across the arms. She's part of you now. That night my reflection returned, but it didn't move with me. It stayed perfectly still, watching, and then it smiled, the same smile I'd seen stitched on the doll the first day. I screamed and smashed the mirror shards everywhere, but in every single broken piece. My reflection still smiled. You can't return her because you're not the one holding her anymore. She's holding you. I couldn't stay in my aunt's house after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the doll crawling toward me from across the room, not walking, but dragging itself forward, joints cracking, thread tightening with every inch. I packed a bag and left town the next morning, drove 4 hours south, booked a motel room under a fake name. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even my aunt. I thought putting distance between me and Black Hollow might help, but when I opened my bag to unpack, the doll was in it, sitting on top of my clothes, not folded or hidden, placed proud, staring up at me with those beady red eyes. A fresh message was stitched across its stomach. She remembers all of you. I didn't scream. I was too tired to broken. Instead, I went online. I searched keywords that made me feel crazy just for typing them: doll, red thread, forest, Black Hollow, stitched messages, and after hours of digging through dead links and message boards from years ago, I found them. Other people, not many, maybe 6 or 7 across different forums, but they described exactly what I was experiencing. They didn't use real names, just aliases, but they wrote about the doll showing up in places it couldn't have, the stitched warnings, the mirror reflections that moved out of sync. One post chilled me more than any other. It simply said, "She comes for those who carry guilt and feeds on the ones who try to forget." That's when I realized what she was feeding on: not just fear, not just curiosity, regret. The doll had never moved on its own. It had moved because of me, because of everything I hadn't said, because of everything I'd buried, and I wasn't the only one. One user uploaded a grainy photo of a doll almost identical to mine. The caption read, My sister took it. I didn't stop her. Now I see her in my sleep. I messaged every person who had posted. Only one replied. Her name was Claire. She lived 2 towns away. She agreed to me. I almost didn't go. I was terrified. But I needed answers. I needed to know if anyone had escaped this. When we met at a diner, Claire looked worse than I did, pale, thin, eyes sunken like she hadn't slept in weeks. And beside her, in the booth, was another doll. Just like Minish didn't even acknowledge it, like she'd stopped trying to ignore it and had simply accepted it. She said the moment you carry her past the trees, she marks you. And once you're marked, she finds the others. She multiplies. Through guilt, through silence, I asked her how many dolls she had. Claire's lips trembled. 3, 1 in my car, 1 in my bed, 1. I think it's inside me now. I wanted to run, but where? How do you run from something that isn't chasing you, something that's becoming you? As I left the diner, the doll was sitting in the driver's seat of my car, not placed, buckled, a new message stitched across its lap. She's learning how to walk. That night in the motel, I didn't close my eyes. I couldn't. I kept the lights on, sat against the wall with my knees pulled to my chest, and watched the doll sitting silently on the dresser. I'd moved it there after finding it in my car again, buckled and like it had been driven somewhere. But now it didn't feel like a toy anymore. It felt like a presence, a shell, a mouth for something deeper. Claire had said the most chilling thing I'd ever heard, that the doll was just a step, like a cocoon, and eventually it would shed around 3 o'clock a.m. I saw it move again. This time I didn't blink, didn't look away. I watched its left leg twitch, then extend fully, joint snapping like a cracking knuckle, then its head tilted so far sideways. I heard thread snap. A thin line of dark liquid oozed from behind one button. It wasn't blood, it looked like ink, thick and slow. That's when I knew this wasn't about scaring me. It was about building something inside me, turning me into a vessel like the others, because now every night I saw more than one in my room. They weren't identical anymore, some taller, some wider, some with sharp stitching, others with broken faces and hollow bodies. They didn't speak, but I heard them in my bones, in the static of my phone, in the buzz of motel lights, and every night a new message would appear somewhere in the room. She knows your shape now. You blinked too long. Your mouth fits her voice. Claire stopped responding to my messages. When I tried calling, I got a disconnected tone. I drove back to the diner where we'd met. The staff said no one named Claire had ever worked there or been seen there. I searched for her online. Nothing, not even old posts. It was like she'd been erased or absorbed. But that night I decided to test something. I placed the doll in the bathtub, closed the door, turned on every light, covered every mirror. I took sleeping pills just to shut down my brain. But I woke up at exactly 3:33 a.m. with a sharp pain in my jaw, like someone had pried it open while I slept. I stumbled to the bathroom and found the doll gone. In its place was a puddle of that same black ink, and a message scroll on the mirror in red thread, like it had been dragged across glass. You dreamed in her language. And then I started seeing her, not the doll, her behind strangers, at gas stations, reflected in windows. A tall, thin woman with no face, just stitching, long hands had tilted, and always walking toward me. Slow, deliberate, like she had all the time in the world. No one else sees her, but I do. Because I opened the forest, I brought her out, I gave her a name, even if I never spoke it aloud. She doesn't want the doll back, she wants the doll forgotten. Because it's just a skin she's done using, and now she wants mine. I went back to Black Hollow. I knew it was a death sentence, but by now death felt less terrifying than becoming the thing she was building me into. My hair had started to fall out in strands, my voice cracked like it didn't belong to me, and one morning I woke up with red stitching round my ankle, real thread sewn into skin I hadn't touched. That's when I knew I didn't have time. I had to go back. I didn't tell my aunt. I didn't take my car. I walked, carry only a flashlight, the doll, and an old journal I'd found in the motel closet, one that hadn't been there the day before. It was filled with drawing sketches of the faceless woman, of dolls, of girls with stitched mouths. On the back page someone had written, she was once someone before the forest remembered her instead. I crossed the tree line just before sunset. The forest didn't greet me, it swallowed me. The light vanished behind me, like the hollow had sealed its mouth. I didn't follow A trail this time I followed the sound, the faint clicking of thread being pulled over and over like something was being sewn nearby. The deeper I went, the more the air tightened. Every breath felt like I was inhaling dust and splinters. Then I saw it, a clearing filled with dolls. But not like before. These ones were full-sized human-height stuffed forms hung by red thread from the branches above me, swinging slowly like wind chimes. They weren't dolls anymore, they were replicas, copies of people who had touched her. Some had half faces, some had none. One of them looked exactly like me. Drop the flashlight in the center of the clearing was her, not walking, not floating, just standing tall and hunched like her spine had been broken and rebuilt with rusted nails. Her body was covered in skin that wasn't hers, pale patches, stitched shapes. Her hands were long, and instead of fingers, she had spools of thread slowly unraveling. And where a face should have been just her stretched sheet of porcelain cracked in one corner with the faint outline of where eyes used to besh didn't move. But I felt her inside my skull whispering, "You wore my shape. You spoke where I should have. You carried me out of silence." I dropped to my knees. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was fading. I could feel my thoughts listening, unraveling like the thread she held. I understood now. She wasn't a spirit. She was the memory of being forgotten, the curse of the discarded, the rage of things that were once held and then left behind. And every girl who picked up that doll had fed her unknowingly, stitching her further into the world with each fearful glance, each attempt to forget. I wasn't the target, I was just the next step. Then I did something none of the others had tried. I said her name because I knew it now. She had sewn it into the whispers, into my skin, into the journal, into every message I thought was a warning. Her name was Maris. Maris, I whispered. "I see you, I remember you." She froze, the forest did tuned. Then she screamed, not from her mouth, but from every doll in the trees, every stitch in the air. I don't remember falling, I don't remember running. I just remember waking up in the hospital 2 days later, covered in thorns and ash, with red threads still wrapped around my wrists. The doctors said hikers found me just outside Eastbrook. No one knows how I got there. But I do remember her name, and now I remember what she wants. It's been 2 weeks since the hospital. I was discharged with cuts, dehydration, and stress-induced psychosis written in my file. But I know what happened. I remember her name, Maris. And I remember what I gave her. It wasn't just my fear. It wasn't just a path out of the forest. It was permission. By saying her name, I didn't banish her. I didn't break the curse. I invited her back into the world, into me, into everything I touch now. The thread is gone, yet something deeper stayed. Mirrors still hesitate before they reflect me. Lights flicker when I speak, and sometimes when I pick up my phone, I find photos of myself taken while I sleep. Claire never came back online. Her page is gone. My aunt refuses to talk about Black Hollow anymore. She moved, changed her number. But last night, I received a box in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in tiny red stitching across the cardboard. Inside was a doll not like the others. This one looked exactly like me. Same hair, same dress I wore in the forest, same scar on my wrist. It wasn't stitched, it was perfect, and when I touched it, my whole body locked. To be was pulled backward, not physically, but mentally, like a thread being yanked through my thoughts, and for a second, I saw through her eyes Maris. She was standing in someone else's bedroom watching a little girl sleep, her faceless head tilted with joy, and in her hand, a new doll, one I hadn't seen before, one that looked just like the girl in bed. When I snapped back, I couldn't move for hours. My mouth stayed shut, lips pressed like they'd been stitched. My arms trembled, and in the mirror my reflection blinked. Late half a second after I knew then. Maris doesn't just haunt copies, she replaces, she builds new versions of the people who find her, then leaves the old ones hollow. That's what Claire meant when she said one of them's inside me now. I'm not Lena Harrow anymore, not fully. I wake up with memories that aren't mine, smells I don't recognize, scars I didn't have the night before, and sometimes I find bits of thread in my hair. My voice, when I speak, has started to echo like someone else is repeating me. A second later, she's not becoming me, I'm becoming her. So if you're hearing this, if this video made it online, it's because there's still a part of me trying to hold on. But know this, don't touch what doesn't call your name. And if you ever find a doll in the woods with red thread stitched into its chest, don't read It don't carry, it don't even look at it too long because her name is Marisan now. She remembers you too if this story disturbed you, chilled your spine, or made you check your reflection twice. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. This horror story was written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever brought something home that didn't belong to you? Do you trust your reflection? If you saw her, would you say her name or stay silent forever?